A wife who can't even handle basic chores has no place in this house, my mother-in-law spat, her voice dripping with disdain. Once again, I was the scapegoat, her sharp gaze slicing through me like a blade. My sister-in-law added her own sting to the moment. I'll take care of Mom and Everett, so you don't need to be here anymore. Besides, you always look so exhausted and miserable. Her words cut deep. The irony was almost laughable. She, who never lifted a finger, had the audacity to say that. Everett, I silently begged, don't you see how cruel they're being? But I already knew better than to hope for his support. His voice was just as heartless. Mom and Monica are right. A wife who prioritizes work over house chores is useless. And honestly, I've got things covered with the new part-timer at the cafe, so I don't need you either. Pack your bags and leave. I stood there, frozen, as the three of them hurled their venomous words and cast me aside like trash. Clenching my fists, I kept my eyes on the floor, forcing myself to stay composed. Finally, I spoke, my voice steady despite the fury boiling inside me. Understood, I'll go. But in my heart, a quiet resolve took root. They had placed every burden on me, and soon, they would pay for it. My name is Miranda, I'm 32 years old, balancing a full-time job while managing all the household responsibilities. These days, many women continue working after marriage, and I was no exception. My job was important to me. I had been with the same company since graduation. One chaotic morning, just as I was about to leave for work, Everett stopped me. Hey, Miranda, can you handle these? He handed me a pile of receipts. The tax return deadline is coming up. I sighed internally. Why can't you take care of your own cafe's finances? Still, I kept my tone neutral, but Everett just shrugged and muttered, you know I'm terrible with numbers. You're always such a lifesaver, thanks. That was Everett, always expecting me to pick up the slack. We had been married for 5 years. Back when he was working at a restaurant I used to visit, we hit it off, started dating, and eventually tied the knot. His lifelong dream had been to open a cafe, and now he was finally running one. Yet when it came to anything beyond brewing coffee, bookkeeping, ordering supplies, paying bills, he conveniently left it all to me, just like he was doing now with the taxes. I barely had time to process my frustration before my mother-in-law approached me at the door. Miranda, I feel like having Chinese food today. Take care of it, will you? I swallowed my irritation and nodded. Understood. Could you wash the rice in the meantime? Her expression soured immediately. Why should I? I don't want to come home early just to deal with that. Oh, and Monica and the kids are visiting this weekend, so make sure you cook meals they'll enjoy. What? Oh, okay. The news caught me off guard. When I first got married, I had pictured a quiet life with just Everett and me, but that dream was shattered when he insisted his mother move in with us. My dad passed away, and Monica has her own family. I don't want Mom to live alone. Besides, this house is big enough for all of us, he had reasoned. I hadn't had much say in the matter. Once we moved in, I realized the extent of the chaos. My mother-in-law despised cooking and spent most of her pension eating out. The house was a mess, and Everett, believing housework was a woman's duty, refused to lift a finger. As a result, while working full-time, I found myself shouldering all the household responsibilities alone. Monica, my sister-in-law, often dropped by with her children. Every time she did, the workload doubled. The mere thought of her visit that weekend left me exhausted. I gritted my teeth and pushed through the week. Then, the weekend arrived, and with it, an announcement I wasn't prepared for. Miranda, Monica said casually, I'm actually getting a divorce. I'll be moving in with the kids next month, so you'll need to take care of us. I blinked, stunned. What? I didn't even know you were getting divorced. Are you okay? Her expression darkened. What, do you have a problem with it? I quickly backtracked. No, I was surprised, that's all. When are you moving in? The sooner, the better. At first, I tried to be optimistic. Maybe, unlike her mother, Monica would help with chores. After all, she was a stay-at-home mom. But that illusion crumbled the moment she settled in. Monica had never been expected to do housework growing up, and it showed. She spent her days lounging in front of the TV, snacking, while her children, picky eaters, required separate meals. As if that wasn't enough, I ended up handling their kindergarten drop-offs too. I later learned that Monica's divorce stemmed, in part, from her unwillingness to contribute to her own household. Meanwhile, my workload at the office had skyrocketed. I was buried in a major project, leaving early and returning late. Every ounce of my energy was spent before I even stepped through the front door. And yet, the moment I got home, the complaints started. Why isn't dinner ready? Why are you always late? When I started falling behind on chores, my mother-in-law and Monica unleashed their wrath. The laundry is piling up, my mother-in-law snapped. You can't just neglect your duties because you're busy. I tried to reason with her. Mother, I work full-time too. But Monica cut me off. Listen to the way she talks back. It's terrifying. We already have food made for us, so what's her excuse? I took a deep breath. Monica, since you're home all day, could you help out a little? My mother-in-law scoffed. Why should Monica work? Your husband owns a business. You shouldn't even need a job. If you insist on working, at least handle the household properly. I stared at them in disbelief. They spoke as if their twisted logic was the norm. That night, at my wit's end, I confronted Everett. I understand you're busy with the cafe, I said, but your mother and sister refuse to lift a finger. I can't keep doing this alone. Everett's eyes narrowed. Stop badmouthing my family. That's not what I'm doing, I insisted, but this is impossible for one person to manage. Can't you back me up a little? His response was cold. I run a business, Miranda, you wouldn't understand. Being just an employee, don't dump your problems on me. He turned over and went to sleep, leaving me seething. But then, an idea struck me. The next day, I took time off and ordered several new appliances, anything that could ease my burden, a high-efficiency washing machine, a robot vacuum, and state-of-the-art cooking gadgets. If no one was going to help me, I would let technology do it instead. When the deliveries arrived, my mother-in-law and Monica gathered around, eyeing the boxes with suspicion. You bought all this without asking us? My mother-in-law demanded. The old washing machine still works just fine. Yes, I replied sweetly, but this one will cut my laundry time in half. Her lips pursed. And what are these other boxes? A robot vacuum, a smart cooking appliance. And for the first time in a long while, I smiled. Before I realized it, they had backed me into a corner in the living room, their arms folded, eyes burning with disapproval. Everett sat beside them, his smirk filled with smug satisfaction. My mother-in-law's voice boomed through the room. How dare you waste household money on all this junk? Are you just trying to dodge your responsibilities? I took a steady breath. I was only trying to make things more efficient, not avoid my duties. She scoffed, unwilling to hear reason. People these days rely too much on machines. Monica nodded in agreement. Exactly, Everett may own a business, but that doesn't mean you can throw away money on things we don't need. Everett gave a knowing nod, as if his mother and sister had spoken absolute truth. I wanted to argue, to stand my ground, but Monica cut me off before I could. You're always looking for shortcuts, yet you still can't handle basic chores. What were you thinking? Her words stung, but I held my tongue, which only seemed to enrage my mother-in-law more. And then, she dropped the bombshell that shattered everything. A lazy wife who won't pull her weight has no place in this house. I stood frozen, staring at her in shock as she glared back with cold finality. Monica piled on, sneering, we have Mom and Everett, we don't need you here, all you do is mope around like some useless parasite. I turned to Everett one last time, hoping, just maybe, he would see reason. Everett, this is too much, your mother and sister are being completely unfair. But his smirk only deepened. They're absolutely right. A wife who can't manage a household is worthless, and honestly, who wastes money on expensive gadgets just to make her own life easier? Then, with a cruel glint in his eyes, he uttered the words that sent me reeling. Besides, I've already moved on. There's someone new. She's a cute part-timer at the cafe, so much better than you. You're not needed here anymore. Pack your bags and get out. His icy tone left me momentarily breathless. My legs nearly gave out as they laughed, mocking me for being a failure of a wife. I clenched my fists, my head bowed, my entire being shaking with fury, but instead of breaking down, I took a deep, steadying breath and lifted my gaze. Fine, I said, my voice eerily calm, I understand, I'll leave. My mother-in-law snorted, good riddance, we'll be much better off without you. Ignoring her final insult, I walked over to a drawer in the living room and pulled out a stack of papers. Holding them up, I turned to Everett. Then let's make it official, let's get a divorce. His smug expression faltered. You already had the papers ready? He let out a short laugh. Fine, I'll sign, just don't come crying when you regret it. With an indifferent shrug, He scribbled his name across the document, sealing our fate in ink. That same day, I packed my things and left for a short-term apartment. Not one of them saw me off. Soon after, I filed the divorce papers at City Hall. Free from that toxic household, I rented my own place and, for the first time in years, felt truly independent. Almost at the same time, I accepted a long-overdue promotion at work, one I had turned down before because I was too busy managing their lives. Stepping into my new managerial role, I rediscovered my passion for my career. Without anyone dragging me down, it felt like I could finally breathe again. Then, about a week later, my former mother-in-law started calling me. I ignored her every time. I had no desire to hear whatever nonsense she had to say. A full year passed. One holiday, while lounging at home, I noticed her number flash on my phone again. This time, I picked up, determined to put an end to whatever game she was playing. "Hello? Miranda," she cried, her voice unusually frantic. "You finally answered. How could you ignore me for so long?" I remained indifferent. "What do you want?" She hesitated before carefully asking, "How have you been? Doing okay?" I didn't sugarcoat my response. "I have my own apartment, a great job, and a much better income than before. I'm living quite well." Silence stretched between us. Then, in an overly sweet tone, she finally revealed her true reason for calling. "That's wonderful to hear, Miranda. So, would you consider coming back?" A bitter laugh escaped me. "And why would I do that?" She let out a heavy sigh. "Well, truth be told, we're struggling financially." I smirked. "Let me guess, Everett's Cafe isn't even making $1,000 a month anymore? And since neither you nor Monica work, there's no other income, right?" A stunned silence followed. "How do you know that?" she spluttered. I chuckled. "Because I was the one handling all of Everett's finances. Did you really think I wouldn't notice?" She quickly tried to change tactics. "Miranda, I didn't realize how much you contributed. We always assumed Everett was taking care of everything." I scoffed. "I was giving over $3,000 a month from my salary to support you all. Meanwhile, Everett's Cafe barely pulled in $800 on a good month." Desperation seeped into her voice. "Please, Miranda, come back." I feigned curiosity. "And how's Everett's Cafe doing these days?" She let out a defeated sigh. "It's probably going to shut down next month. And that part-timer? She left him ages ago." I couldn't help but chuckle. Well, with no real leadership and a boss who's all talk, that's not surprising. No one wants to work under someone like that. There was no response from her end. "Well," I said, "I think that's enough conversation. I have better things to do." Panicked, she blurted out, "Wait, the house is falling apart. Nobody cleans, nobody cooks, and the kids run wild. We've been living off takeout, but we can't afford it anymore. The washing machine broke, and we have no money to replace it. Miranda, we need you." I let out a low laugh. "Oh, you mean the same washing machine you refused to replace because I was wasting money? And what about those appliances you mocked me for buying? Weren't they just for lazy people?" She faltered. "I was wrong. I never thought things would turn out like this." She tried one last time. "Miranda, we're still family. Let's help each other like before. Without you, we can't even cover property taxes. If this continues, we'll have to sell the house." I shook my head, utterly unmoved. "I don't owe you a thing. After everything you put me through, I feel nothing for you or that house." Her cries grew frantic, but I calmly ended the call and blocked her number. Leaning back in my clean, peaceful apartment, I sipped my coffee with a satisfied smile. 3 months later, I happened to walk past Everett's old cafe. It was shut down, an empty shell of failure. A for sale sign hung in front of my former in-laws' house. A passing neighbor filled me in. They had sold it in a hurry and were now crammed into a tiny apartment, constantly arguing. Neighbors complained about the noise and the filth. Clearly, they had learned nothing. I gazed at the house that once trapped me, feeling nothing but detachment. Then, without a second glance, I walked away, toward my future. Meanwhile, my life only kept getting better. Now, I have a fulfilling career, and recently, a kind and respectful coworker asked me out. We're now in a serious relationship, discussing marriage. This time, I know, I'm finally going to be truly happy. Thanks for watching. See you again in the next video. Stay stunned.